This video will show a firmware update of a Raritan PDU using the JSON-RPC SDK. So let's log into a Raritan PDU that needs a firmware update. We'll log in as the admin user, specify its password, and let's log in. If we look at the device information, we can see it's running 3.2.30.5, relatively old version. So we want to upgrade. So let's close that, log out, just go back to a blank screen. So I have a terminal session running on a Linux box with the necessary software that I've written. And if I run the script without any command line arguments, it tells me that it expects command line arguments. Now, I'm going to kind of go through this relatively quickly because I don't want to bog you down in the detail. So I need to set an environment variable to hold the password. The reason I do that is because it's not a good idea to hard code passwords into scripts, because if somebody gets hold of the scripts, the file that the script is in, then they've got your password. And it's also not a good idea to type them on the command line either, because there are ways that that can be seen as well. So I'm now going to run the update script with some arguments. First of which is the host name, the name of the PDU, a username to log in as, the name of the environment variable that contains the password, and then a command to the script, which is show current firmware. If we run this, it logs into the PDU using the JSON-RPC SDK, extracts the current firmware version, which we see as 3.2.30.5, which was the same on the web interface. So now the next stage, the reason we're all here, is to see a firmware update. Now, I've got the firmware version 3.2.30 here, and I've got the next level up here, the 3.3.10. So let's upgrade it to this firmware. So I can do that by adding an extra command line argument with the firmware image, and then change the command to be run update. And let's see what happens now. So the first stage, again, it reports the current firmware version. It then uploads the image into the PDU. This takes a little while. Now that it's uploaded it, it's going to tell us information about the image that it's uploaded. The good news is that the image state is complete. It reports the firmware version, it's for a PDU, and it's the PX2. It's saying it's compatible with this device, and that the signature of the firmware file is valid. This is all good news. We've now triggered the start of the update firmware, and now the script will go through and give us status information of how the update is running. So, status of initialization, now it's doing prep, and now it's saying that the update status is currently unavailable. This is because the PDU is actually rebooting. Now I do actually have a webcam that's pointing at my PDU, so just under my desk, so we can watch that as well. So status is still unavailable. Now this is the good, clever bit. That's just changed to FUP, that stands for firmware update. Let me just put that up in that part of the screen. And move this one down a bit so we can see what's going on. So now the firmware update is in a simulation phase. This is something that you don't see on the web interface. It's extra information which you can dig out using the SDK. So it's simulating the update. I think this is a kind of a safety feature to just try and verify that it is going to work. Fingers crossed. And now it's actually in the update phase itself. We notice here that it's actually giving us a rundown of the elapsed time since the firmware was initiated, the firmware update was initiated, and it's giving us an estimate of how long it might take. The estimate is just an estimate. How long it will take will depend on things like how many outlets are on the PDU, if you've got a lot of sensors attached to it, and other environmental factors. Now just remember, one of the options I could have specified on the command line is I can also specify a logging option, so everything that you're seeing on the screen here can also be captured in a file. I'll show you that after the firmware has updated successfully. And again, with all updates, take the usual precautions. Make sure that you've a backup of your configuration before you start. I've done that. And also make sure that that you don't actually disconnect the power while you're doing the update. Now, because the firmware update can be scripted with some basic shell script programming, you could automate this. You could run several updates in parallel. I've been inclined to run them in the background as what's called an at job, but there are other ways to actually do that. And of course, that's where the logging feature of the script really comes into its own, because if you're running it in the background, you want to save the output to a log, so after the update's complete, you can go and look afterwards to see if the update was successful. So we're seeing now, talking about success, it's now reporting that the update is successful. And you can see here that the display has now changed back to normal operation. We're saying that the update status currently unavailable. Now it's logged back in, and it's saying us that the firmware update appears to have completed successfully. Well, the proof of that will be if we log in through the web interface, so let's do that again. Well, straight away it's looking good because we've got the different style of login for this particular version of firmware. It's looking good. So if we go to maintenance, and if we have a look at the firmware, so it's so the device information. So, yeah, so the firmware version is 3.3.10.5, so it's upgraded. And if we look at the firmware history, we can see, yeah, so there we go. Today's date here, you can see it's 15th of March, and so it's done an update from 3.2.30.5 to 3.3.10.5, and it was successful. Now, I'll just show you the logging feature again. If we go back and just say, well, we can go back and show current firmware version, where that's again being reported there. Now I can add a logging option with the -l option, and I'm specifying a file number fwlog.txt. So we get it on the screen, but also if we can also see that in the file as well. So it's actually everything we see on the screen also appears in the log file as well. So there we go. That's a firmware update for Raritan PDU using the JSON-RPC SDK from the command line. Thank you for watching.